I'm not on mute. You can unmute yourself for now. Excellent. Everybody, pour yourself a glass. We're going to start. We're going to have a little change of plans tonight. We're going to switch up the Gascony for the Sicilia. So instead of pouring the Gascony first, pour yourself a glass of the Sicilia. I'll give you a few seconds to do that as we get warmed up for tonight. Good. Hold up your glass. Jeff, you got yours? Go.
All right.
Excellent. Everybody's got a glass? Cheers. Hold up your glass, everybody. Cheers. Thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. Let's welcome Mary Taylor from Housatonic Wine Company and Mary Taylor Wines. Also from Housatonic Wine Company, we have Lauren Griffin, who visits my store on a weekly basis, bringing me all these delicious wines for me to bring to you all tonight. So cheers. Raise that glass up. Till the day we could do all this in person again. Cheers. Right. So we'll get right down to it. Mary, thanks for coming on with us tonight. Thanks for meeting everybody in the room tonight. Everybody in here is a big fan of your wines. And it all started with that Gascony. You came in that day with that Gascony. It's like your flagship, at least for me. Anybody that can pull off a Gascony at that price with that kind of credibility behind it, just blew my mind. It just blew my mind. So if you Google, take the time after this class, Google Mary Taylor Wines, and you'll see all these different things popping up online, all these different articles about her, videos, podcasts. And the biggest thing out of all of them that I've read and listened to, it's kind of like her, I guess you would call it your business plan, bringing the village wines of Europe to the people. And I see that in every wine you bring in. And for somebody to start a wine distribution, wine importing company, some of the most obscure places you go to and bring those wines here, it's like, oh my God. I mean, Gascony, yeah. But Bouzette that we're going to try tonight, the what do you call it? Give it to me. The Mouzac. No, the Gaillac, the Valençay, all of this stuff. I mean, who starts off with a portfolio of all these obscure wines like that? They're absolutely amazing. So how did you get involved with all this? I know it's great to see your name on a bottle of wine, but how do you get involved with all this? How did this all come to play?
Oh gosh, what do you want, the long?
Oh, you can do the short. We can play the short game right now.
Good people of Connecticut, hello. Yeah, well, so somebody, I guess, asked someone like, so who does this woman think she is with her name on the label? Like, who is this? Who's this woman? And I'm like, well, I'm just a tireless worker in the wine business. I've been in the business since the early 90s. I've been on all sides of the business. I worked in wine auctions. I worked in retail. I was a buyer in New York City. I was a writer. I lived in Burgundy in Europe. I wrote a newsletter about wine. I was a somm at a bunch of restaurants in Boston and New York. I was a portfolio manager. I owned an import distribution company before. I was a partner in a company and then switched over to working for another big company. And I just kind of like got kind of in the face of, I've never worked for a huge retail outlet or anything like that, but
oh, you're lucky you're not tainted.
Yeah, so I just have this sort of long winding road in the business. I really started as a cheesemonger. And, you know, I don't know if you guys know your cheeses, but there's this company called Neil's Yard.
Yeah.
Are they around, Chris? Do they?
Yeah, what's her name down in Fairfield? She brings a lot of their stuff in. Fairfield Cheese Company, Greenwich Cheese Company, Laura. She's a big fan of theirs. She stays in touch with them direct.
Yeah, so like Neil's Yard does what I do too. Like they're really an inspiration for me. Like they go around and find all these cool cheeses and all these cheese farmers and cheeses that you'd never buy, like Gabine. I mean, who buys Gabine? But because Neil's Yard like repackaged, put their name on, and brought these cheeses out to the market, like people started trying all these different obscure cheeses that were from farmers and not from Neil's Yard. There were just the buyers and the sort of the traders or the negociant of those cheeses. And I love that. I think that that's helpful. And I know it's like considered a little bit douchey. Like it's a little, is that an acceptable word?
It's fine. It's Friday night.
It's not in it. What a week it's been.
Yes.
But the like, you know, the most purist wine snobs would be like, oh my God, this is so commercial. Like, you want a big brand. Like, the whole point of the great wine is like small grower, small production, discovery. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, why is Gallo and Constellation like, why do they have 70% of the wine market? Why?
Why? Right.
What's the power in their brands? And can we do something that's legit and like in the spirit of great wine and growers and history and authenticity without like, and also become a cornerstone of a marketplace without sacrificing all that good stuff. So yeah, did I answer your question? I can talk forever, believe me. I
No,
love talking about myself.
in a nutshell, no, that's it. So, I mean, would you consider yourself a negociant? I mean, the title of this whole thing was relating you to a negociant. Would you really consider yourself a negociant, or are you more of just the adventurer? You're the wine adventurer. You're out there. You're checking all these places out. I mean, you're not necessarily buying the grapes, but you have these relationships with these small vineyards that produce these phenomenal wines with your name on it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I guess technically I'm like an importer, like any other importer. Yeah. Most of the importers put their name on the back. I was just like, I'm thinking about the I'm actually selling to myself when I was 24, and I used to work at Sotheby's, and I'd write about like $900 bottles all day in the catalog, and then since they paid nothing, yeah, that's a good question. Well, since they paid nothing, I would go to the local liquor store and I'd buy like according to label, and I'd try different things, and you know, had I seen these wines on that shelf as a 24-year-old, I would have been like, ooh, what's this? And explored all of them. So I just kind of wanted to appeal to that segment, but also like great collectors love these too. So it's, but anyway, why don't we taste the first wine before I'm, you know, I can get really boring and geeky. I'll try not to.
That's all right. This crowd will love it. So the first wine we're pouring tonight is Sicilia. What's interesting about this, I mean, again, everybody coming to market right now, they're not bringing us 100% Grillo, but you guys make it rock. I mean, everything you bring in, it's like, you have to try this, and you stick it right in our faces. No, and you stand firmly behind it, even when Lauren comes in. I mean, you stand firmly behind all your wines, and your work ethic is just savage out there. You get out there in front of everybody, you make these wines known to everybody. Where that brand recognition, just the typeface on here, the label and everything, it's becoming its own entity, its own brand. And when you see that, I hate to relate it to like the 90 Plus brand, but you're looking at that, and if you didn't know anything about wine, but you knew you liked your stuff, you see the brand, you see the wine, you say, wow, I'll grab that because I know it's going to be good. I think you guys knock it out of the park with this. But yeah, go for it.
Actually, the 90 Plus model, and we've been like accused of, they're like, what is this 90 Plus? Like, okay, well, I mean, I know them. I know Brett, who's one of the owners of that company. I actually have a lot of respect for them and what they do. I think it's cool. It's not what I'm like. I actually don't like scores. I'm not a score.
No, right.
It's so subjective. So like, and then, you know, they're packaging as private labels and not revealing their sources, and I'm doing exactly the opposite of that. So that's what, you know, but it's similar in that, you know, it's a brand, and there's a lot of different, I have like 16 wines, a lot more in production. I have two awesome brand managers out there, one in the mid-Atlantic and one in the sort of Chicago markets, and you know, they need a lot of wood to chop. So I'm like, okay, what else can I, but you know, the idea is like, it's like finding what I think represents not necessarily the best wine of its given region, but like the best wine for the money. You know, like money is important and the price points are critical. Like, I'm a woman, I make 71 cents on the dollar. You know, like I don't have $35 every night to spend on a bottle of wine. Right. So I was like, how can I? And like, I spent 20 years blind tasting, and you know, tasting. My boyfriend was a wine grower in Burgundy. I lived there for years, and I'm in all these weird clubs of wine collectors, like the gastroenterologists of the Upper East Side. Like, I stumbled into all these like wine clubs, and for many years, I just would sit at these really serious tables and doing these blind tastings. And I just got my palate like hyper up to snuff. I mean, I have the best palate in the wine, but no, I mean, whatever. I just, I know that, like I really enjoy the nuance of wine, and I love tasting, and I've gotten a few compliments that I have a good palate. So, I hope you guys think so too, because you'll see that throughout all these wines, you have one common thread, and that's like no makeup, not blustery, not blousy, no oak, not fattened up. Like everything's just like a pure example of a wine from the place. So
no commercial yeast.
Right. No aromatic yeast. Yeah. I always say no Botox.
No Botox, no filler, no hot dog filler.
Right.
Good.
So, all right, there's some questions over here. Let's see. What do we got? So you guys are drinking the Sicilia?
Correct. There's a good story behind this as well, as with all your wines, no?
Yeah. So okay, all right. Let's do this. I don't even know what I'm a little delirious. It's been quite a just this week has been very nutsy. But so so we're having Sicilia. This wine is from the Tenuta di Gorgi Tondi, and it's named after this WWF preserved bird sanctuary that's on the west side of Sicily. We're south of Marsala. This is the Palermo side as well. And this side is not the like hyper, like if you're a real wine geek, do we have any serious wine geeks here? Probably.
Yeah, majority of everybody here.
Woo! I got you. I see you, Jizzer. Oh yeah, I see you tomorrow too. So the geeky side of Sicily is the volcanic side of the island. So it's the east side. And that's where like Noto and Etna and all these, and there's these super cool wines that are grown out there in volcanic soil. But then on the west side, there's all these vineyards that are growing in like clay and limestone. And they've been there for a zillion years. So this is a woman-owned property. It was the Sala sisters. They own it now, but it was their grandmother that was able to purchase this tract of land from the bigger winery, 100 years ago. And the family's been making the wines together, but now it's the sister. So I have a red it'll be ready December 1st, Chris. That's Anna Maria Sala making, and this one is Clara. And they're really, they work really closely together. And they only grow indigenous varietals to Sicily. So Grillo there's an old name like what is it, Cardedu or something. There's some really old, I don't know if you know your Sicilian varietals, but there's like Frappato, Naradavola for reds, and you have all these whites, Inzolia, and I like this Grillo. I just think it's rich.
Yeah.
Got the tropical thing, but it's not because we put any yeast or anything fake in it. It's actually that's just the way it is, and it has all that salinity. It's pretty weighty, but it has a good acid. So you get the ocean breezes, you get the Saharan heat, but you get breezes, so it's like a kind of a good condition for growing. And this is like all these vineyards roll down to the Mediterranean, and low yields. It's certified organic. And I tasted this. I love the creaminess and I love the acidity together. So
it's a beautiful wine.
Anyone not like it?
Yeah. What's everybody's thoughts? Type them into the box below. Unmute yourself. Yeah, there's a lot of thumbs up around the corner.
Anybody? I love.
That's okay to be on the fence.
I love critiquing wine. I don't. Because it's like so I have like 16 wines on the market, and like they switch vintages. Some vintages are better than others. So there's just like, if a wine is like people don't like it, we try to make sure we buy stuff that's like of the highest possible quality, but like things aren't going to appeal to everyone, and I love like a critical opinion, which is good.
Right. The other thing to make note, especially first time I met you, we were looking at different wines that I carry, and you picked up this wine from Umbria. You're like, oh, why do they do that? When they put in these international varietals on there. Going back to the Sicilia, you express, you're looking for people that grow indigenous grapes that know the land and what the land's able to produce without bringing in, supplemental grapes just because, the international market recognizes Cab, Chardonnay, and all that. I think that's really important that they try to preserve that culture and that tradition. I'm glad to see it in the wines that you keep bringing in here.
Yeah, like I don't want to, sorry to the international, the new world, but I generally like drink my Cab and Merlot from the southwest of France, from where it's from, and like, there's some good wine, like Tuscany grows great Merlot, but I'll drink Sangiovese. Thank you very much.
Good.
So I'm a little bit of a purist in that way. So
don't like Merlot.
No.
What's that?
Oh, we said we didn't like rosé either. I'm sure there are. I mean, way off Merlot because it became so jammy
and you're drinking the wrong Merlot.
Well, we're gonna have a Merlot tonight.
Yeah, you're gonna have one later.
Yeah, good. I hope you have some friends to help you with these bottles this weekend.
Yeah. But everybody's thoughts on the Sicilia, and what would you serve with this? What kind of meal would you put up against this?
Me,
again, it's got nice weight. It's got good acid backbone to it.
Yeah, you need, I think, like a sweeter type of fish, like a scallop. That's perfect. The perfect thing to have with this, or like, I mean, I just actually had soup dumplings because I'm in New York and I have to have soup dumplings when I'm here. And like we had some crab soup dumpling.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, oh my God, that would be so good with this. Yeah, no, I have weird pairings. Like I just did a staff training just earlier, and we had my gayak, and somebody said like, what would you pair? And I was like, oh my God, one time I paired a mushu pork pancake with the hoisin, and the gayak was like, mwah. It was so good. But so yeah, no, I think a sweeter, like a richer kind of fish.
Yep.
Like a monkfish, or nothing too iron based on fish. Like I wouldn't do oysters with this, but something. I actually did in Fairfield. There's this great fish, like Nordisk Fish Co. or something like that, and we got like a big piece of Dorade one.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was just perfect, like some spinach and good bread, and this was the best wine to have with that. So yeah, so this is So anyone ever not had a Grillo before?
I see a lot of hands. I see a few hands go up. I've only had it in blends. That's why, this just kind of stand out because I've only had it in blends, never single varietal. And the ones I've had that were single varietal were just commercialized and they weren't as detailed and layered in flavor as this. So, I mean, that's why this stands out. Again, you can slap anything you want on the label and throw it in the bottle, but I mean, it's really got to stand out.
Yeah. Well, this grape was brought to Sicily by the Phoenicians or the Greeks a long time ago, and it's one of the oldest known grapes. I mean, it's sort of somewhat prehistoric because they've been cultivating wine on Sicily for before we counted. I love this, like the Odyssey. I love exploring. I mean, now I have a family to visit in Sicily. I'm like, yay, let's go.
Right.
As soon as an American passport works in Europe. But so it's just nice to have like a nuance and a different flavor, but not because it's like flavored or made up or, somebody's done something to it. Like the thing I love about wine is it's like that is the earth and nature. And it's like the flavors of the soils and the species of grape. That's it. And some fermentation, I mean, that's it. That's so all these wines are so different and they're all just like a species of grape in a different soil. And there's so many like kaleidoscopic flavors to explore and like all this nuance. And it's just so exciting when you get really, really into it. Like there's nothing I love more than like a super, super mineral, like Sancerre, the great Sancerres. I mean, just the soils and nobody makes Sauvignon Blanc like Sancerre. I just love it. So yeah. So
somebody mentioned Greek lemon orzo soup. I think this would hold up good with that.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
Avro lemino.
What's that?
Avro lemino. Is that the soup?
I don't know.
I've had a boyfriend from every country. So I had a Greek one for a while.
Excellent.
Should we go to the Gascon? Are you guys ready for it too?
Ready for the Gascon?
I don't want to rush anybody.
Yeah.
So let me answer the question. What exactly is negociant? And that's a great question. It's kind of an open term. It's like merchant or trader. It just means like somebody who buys fruit, juice, fermented juice, or unfermented juice, or fully made wine. So then, like when you have a champagne, you can have a champagne of the maison, which is all their own fruit, or a champagne negociant, which is some bought fruit or sold fruit. If they're selling fruit, they also have to be a negociant. So that's just a term, but then there's all these like in different. So in Bordeaux, a negociant is like a merchant that sells like all these big known houses, and you can go and buy directly from them, and they're competing with all these other like the big Bordelais houses. But in Burgundy, a negociant really is somebody who slaps their own label on, like Bouchard or Jadot or, Girardin.
Right.
So when I'm actually kind of not a negociant, but it helps people to kind of wrap their head around what I'm doing, because except that there's one other company kind of doing something like I'm doing, but it's a different look. It's like the Clemens or something. It's Clement. It's like on the label, a guy has like a basket of grapes behind him.
Okay.
Do you know those?
No, not yet. I'm sure it's coming.
Well, you must see everything.
Yeah.
So I have sort of a different business model than other people in the business, for better or for worse. So I've used the word negociant, even though it's not exactly accurate. I'm more like an importer with my name on the front and not the back. That's kind of my distinction. And I like a good font. What can I say?
Yeah.
I like a great font. I'm a font person.
All right.
All right. Gascon?
Yeah.
All right.
Most amazing thing with this, I mean, I had conversation with a couple people tonight. You see Gascon, and every distributor has them, and they're nice, they're light, they're quaffable, they're enjoyable, a little fruity. They're relatively inexpensive. And then there's yours, which again, like I keep saying, it just stands out when you lead off with a wine like that, and you could make something in that wholesale price category that excels. It's just like, wow. It's just mind blowing. Yeah, and yours is quaffable, but there's so many different layers. It's got good acid to it. It's got good fruit to it. It's just, it went up on the wines of the month for us, and we just keep a stack in the store at all times, just because people, again, they recognize it. It's the brand, and they just grab and go, and it's been enjoyable for everybody. We keep getting great feedback from it. So I wanted to showcase that tonight for those in the audience that haven't had it yet. So what's your experience with Gascon?
Yeah, so just to answer that one last question I saw there, for the Sicilia, it's like 500 cases or so are made. I work with like mid-tier, mid-size wineries, and this one, the Gascon, is a little bit bigger. So I met these guys in Paris at this Vin Paris. I love wine fairs. I think it's a really efficient way to like meet and talk with a lot of growers in one day. And I met them, and we stayed in touch for a long time. And I wasn't ready. So this is an IGP wine. So IGP is Indication Géographique Typique, which is lower on the like wine appellation status than appellation origine contrôlée. These all translate into all the other languages in Europe. So this is my like slightly lower line. I call it MT2. I'm not trying to be too creative here. It's Mary Taylor too. So these are all like the well under $15 price point, but they come from a place. So like you will never, mark my words, you will never see a grape varietal on my front label. I really have a promise that I'm always talking about geography and like the where of because I think soil makes such an important informs the wine so importantly, and microclimate and history and tradition. And so it's all about where the wine is from. And that's the big problem in America with wine. Americans don't understand. Most people don't know if Chianti is a place or a grape.
Right, exactly.
And that's not our fault. It's Prohibition's fault. We lost our dining culture in those 10 years of Prohibition. And then the growers, they you know, the people that were allowed to make the sacramental wines for the churches became the richest and most powerful wine growers in America. When Prohibition was repealed, the demand was so high. And so all the like kind of super like tailored and small and all the like nuance and the boutiqueness and bespokeness of wine was kind of removed, and it became Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, you know, like everything was boiled down to its inputs. So like Cabernet is like an input. And you know, I say if we treated cheese like we treat wine, we'd have 3 cheeses. We'd have cow, sheep, and goat.
Yep.
And we would forget all the words like Gruyere, Comté, Brie, Camembert, like all that stuff would go away. And we just have, like, I'm kind of bored at like, oh, great, another Pinot Grigio or another Sauvignon Blanc. Like, so what? Like, what the hell? Who cares that there's like a lizard on the, like, I don't, it doesn't. So I'm kind of a snob about that. Like, and I'm not dissing like all New World wine that are varietal labeled. I'm just, I mean, like, I think like Groth makes a fabulous Sauvignon Blanc, and you know, you get to know sort of the properties and stuff. But I like the system in Europe where they codify everything according to geography. So, okay, rant over, right?
It's a good rant, though, you know.
A good rant.
And even with the Pinot Grigio, we try to, especially in my store and other stores like us, try to, if you're talking Pinot Grigio, there's a lot of crap on the market. So you try to really identify where this Pinot's coming from and why this should stand out, even though it's $10. You know, there's a big difference.
Sure.
I think it's important, you know.
Some great Pinot Grigio, like from the Alto Adige on the hillsides of the Dolomites.
Yeah.
So here's Gascony. So this is the Basse Armagnac. That's an area, is the best area for for Armagnac. And in the same place that they grow grapes for Armagnac, like the Uni Blanc and stuff, they grow grapes for wine, but it's only IGT status. It's never been elevated to appellation. A lot of wine comes from the Côte de Gascon. It's usually the like cheap white wine. I mean, that and like Peak Pool and all that. But I think that there's something really interesting here. I think you have to shop very carefully in this region. If you drive around the Côte de Gascon, there's vineyards everywhere. Excuse me, all the soup dumplings. And you can tell when a vineyard's chemically treated because it has moss on the ground. It has like that carpet of moss. Like, you know that they've used herbicide pretty easily, and like you have to be careful. There's a lot of high yields. There's a lot less rules in the IGP rules and the AOC rules. So this estate, I was so lucky to find them. In fact, a really like hipster natural importer also brings in wine from this estate. But this is my special cuvee I do with them. So this is mostly Colombard, which I'm sure no one here has heard of. Come on. Is anyone a Colombard? You've heard of it? Oh, good. Okay. We have a few. I mean, this is Connecticut. Very, very smart people in my state. I sometimes live in Sandy Hook. But so Colombard, you have, I love it. It's like this big lemony, rich, you know, juice that comes from Colombard. And then you have Gros Manseng, which is really floral. That's the wine. That's the grape in Jurançon. I love this appellation. I'd make all of them. I mean, maybe I should make a Jurançon. What do you think, Chris? Should I do a Jurançon?
I think anything you guys find and do is probably going to turn out fantastic.
Excellent. I love it.
I'm not trying to inflate your sale anymore, but I mean, the wines really show really well.
Thank you.
And it's, on our end, it's tough to decide what to bring in and what we could really geek out on to showcase to people. So that's the difficulty on my end. So, but you know, your wines have a home everywhere. You know, I talked to our friends in Georgia, and you know, we're talking to friends in New York. They're all over the place. And if you follow Mary on social media, you'll see her everywhere. And it's amazing where all these wines show up. So again, that's kudos to your work ethic too.
Thanks. Appreciate that. You know, this is kind of a Hail Mary, you know, it's sort of like I had this idea. It came to me that there should be a streamlined label. It came from so many places. Like the first inspiration was being given a really good Bordeaux Blanc with the ugliest label I'd ever seen. And I was like, the wine's so good. Why are you packaging it like it's crap, you know? And there's just this kind of block, you know, the old European.
Yeah.
There's a lot of we say they look like some old communist block, sort of something out of Moldova. Like, what? Why aren't you making your wines beautiful? So like, my really good friend Emily is the art director for Doubleday book publisher, and she just volunteered to help me think this through. And she's a really awesome designer. So like, we've done, you know, this is I mean, all I did was repackage these people's wine. I think I found the wine. I love the wine. I've been to the vineyards. I've really connected with them, and they get it. They get my style. I mean, this is my like zippy zappy, like crushable, you know, it has a little bit of like that grapefruity, like kind of acidity, like it's totally like pow. So it's not actually like the tasting I did today. I served this as the last of the whites because it does kind of like, it's sort of like in your face, like juicy without being manipulative and manufactured or yeasted or ice cold fermentation. I don't like bananas and pineapple flavors in my wine ever. Yeah. So, but I love the, like, I mean, they do super low yields. Everything's extremely sustainable. And this is the result. And I hate to say it, but it really, the packaging helps and it's cool. I think all the kids don't like capsules anymore. This is my capsule free project. I mean, capsules are like 3 cents a capsule. So, you know, save that little margin. Any thoughts on this?
Tom says keeps me in a summer mood. Absolutely. This is very summer oriented.
Yeah. Actually, I noticed some sales slowing down when it got cold. I was like, So, well, maybe my Florida business will kick up.
Yeah, right.
But so, yeah. But yeah, the Gascony, I mean, there's a lot of stories to tell about that area. It's one of the most beautiful, the Perigord and the Dordogne, and you have like all that food of the Southwest. You know that Bordeaux used to be the property of Great Britain or England, and that's what the 100 Years' War was fought about. But the reason why everyone's heard of Bordeaux and like no one's heard of Gascon or Bouzet is because they drew this like tax border, and if you were English, you could buy Bordeaux without paying like an extra import tax. So all the villages outside of that border no one's ever heard of because the English weren't drinking them and talking about them and all that. So it's an interesting legacy. The wines of the Southwest are amazing and they're such good values. So I recommend continuing. I'm gonna do a few more Bordeaux wines too. Like
Are you really? Okay.
Yeah, maybe like a Fronsac. Yeah. You know, I just have to find a perfect one. And it's really this is all karma. You know, it's really the wines come to me, so it's cool. I meet somebody, I don't have that appellation. I love their wine. Like the Bouzet was one. I didn't go looking for a Bouzet, but I found one found me, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. So, I get to admit someone.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, good. So anyway, anyone not like this wine?
I don't see anybody being negative. But again, you know, if you don't like the wine, you know, express that, you know, try to be, you know, courteous but critical. And that's important. That's important to understand why you don't like the wine, not just to crap all over it. And I'm guilty of that myself with a few different things. But, you know, you try not to. You try to be as professional as you can to an extent. Last night I went over to a friend's house and they had wine. I mean, thank God I had something in the trunk because they had Josh on the table. And, you know, I'm not a snob about it, but it's like I'm not drinking that. Just, you know, I tried it again, even during the course of the week, just to give everybody kind of an insight. This week was like all California cabs under $15, and they all had this cookie cutter kind of flavor until one guy came in with this Alexander Valley appellation cab, and you know, it was the best out of everything everybody brought. It's like why are these winemakers making these wines that conform to a flavor profile that the media wants to push, or, you know, the marketing department wants to push? It's doesn't taste like cab at all. It tastes like grape juice with a bunch of cinnamon and nutmeg in it. It's god awful. Until this guy came in with this Alexander Valley. It was really good.
A lot of these wines are all in the same like corporate conglomerate. It's like
right.
it's all like 4 companies: Treasury, Constellation, Gallo. I mean,
Right.
I think it's okay. Like, everybody has the right to make a living, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
there's been some sneaky tactics to try to hurt the little companies this
Right.
year with the tariffs and all that.
Right.
But we've so far been okay. We'll
Yeah.
see.
No, your prices have held.
Yeah.
Want to move on to the reds?
Yeah. What do we got first?
I put down the Beaujolais Village, but you tell me. Because I think that Bouzette could use some time to open, especially if you're just uncorking it.
Yeah. Cool. So we're gonna have the Beaujolais. So Beaujolais is a much maligned kind of wine, and there's a lot of places that are guilty of this. There was a lot of overproduction in like the 70s and 80s. The yields are really, really high. Wines had a lot less density and flavor and integrity. Beaujolais and Beaujolais Village are completely different. Beaujolais is gamay grown in sand, and Beaujolais Village is gamay grown in granite, and that makes a big difference. The granite is, it's easier to grow like high yield in sand and make cheap wine and pump it out, but to make like there's so much potential for great wines. And like in my Burgundy blind Burgundy group, I remember we did like the 2009 vintage of Burgundy, and somebody snuck a Morgon. So if in Beaujolais, you have the Beaujolais Village, the regular Beaujolais Village, and then you have the 10 crus, the villages. And those villages are really, I mean, the wines coming out of each village have their own thing, and they all have a different like color and type of granite. There's like the pink granite, those are always like really kind of more floral and elegant. And then you have the blue granite, Brouilly and Côte de Brouilly. You have the black granite from Morgon. And, that's like these levels of sort of power in the wine and minerality. So this is actually from the blue granite. This Beaujolais farm, they actually make Brouilly, they make Julianas, and they make Morgon. Marine Descombes, the grower, she's about 31. She runs a family business that's been around for a couple hundred years and always male run. She's the first woman down the chain. And it's funny, I was there in March and we were at a restaurant, and like a lot of locals were in the restaurant, and like it was me and Marine, the grower, who they all know who that is. And I had like 4 other women sommeliers, and the maitre d' was like, oh, this is like the room kind of buzzing and people saying hello and everything. But like the word on the street was like, we are like this group of wine professionals, and we're all women. And like, you just see the like kind of, like the eyebrows or the like, it was very funny because it's so like traditional there. And like, we're really in the backwater. But it was, I was proud that like we're just like, no, we're just straight up, this has nothing to do with anything except we're all just super professional, and we've been in this business for decades, and this is the buyer for like this hot restaurant in Philadelphia. This is the buyer for, like, so they had to change their kind of like attitude and tune. But so they, Marine is one of the only like chef d'entreprise, as you say in French, in this little village. And she's really a rock star. She bought this new chateau, old chateau, that I wouldn't want to renovate this thing. And when you buy a chateau, you usually buy it with its vineyards. And so we were walking around. She's revived the vines, cleaned everything out. She's HVE3 certified, which is the highest level of sustainability before you get organic. And she's showing me these vines, these mangled, old, like they're all bush vine, you say in Australian, what do you say, gobelets in French. untrained and mangly and twisted. And she said, you know, these are 100-year-old vines, and they were planted by German prisoners of war in the First World War. And I was like, wow, like there was a dungeon and they had to go do their labor out in the fields, and they had planted these vines. So this is fruit from a whole range of ages of vine. This is Gamay Noir. Gamay is, I love. It's one of my absolute favorite. I think it's one of the most versatile. I have Gamay in my Valence. My Rosé is Gamay. This Gamay, like bring it on. And I love Gamay.
That rosé is so versatile. It blows your mind.
The rosé?
Yeah, the minerality in it, everything, the acidity, it's just fantastic. And we're keeping that going all year long until you roll into the new vintage next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, but this is just a great example of what Gamay is capable of, especially coming into Thanksgiving season. You know, forget about Nouveau. Nouveau's fun. It's festive. It's fun. But, you know, Gamay has so much more potential than just Nouveau. And people always stop right there. They stop at Nouveau and they say, oh, this is what Beaujolais is all about. Until you start getting into, I mean, even as something, I don't want to call this basic Beaujolais, but it's just pure Gamay. And it's a good reference point for people to really taste the expression of this terroir. And, then go from there, really, if you jive with this, if you really relate to this and say, wow, this is pretty good. What else do they do? Then, we start taking you out of there, and then we bring you into the cruise and, really blow your mind at what this great varietal can really do.
Yeah, I have to say, so Beaujolais is the home of the natural wine movement, the Gang of Four. I had a bottle of Foillard, Morgon, Côte de Pie the other day, and I was like, ooh, this is so good. I mean, it's really dense. But there's a lot of different kind of movements in the Beaujolais. You have the whole carbonic maceration, meaning that you don't crush the grape. You actually let the grapes ferment from the inside. So you close the lid and everything's whole cluster, and you let it do its thing before pressing. It's a totally different kind of style. And some people do partial carbonic, open top carbonic, closed carbonic. There's a lot of different styles, and there's a lot of funky natural wine coming from Beaujolais too. And I like that. I love it. I'm a big fan of, the hands of different winemakers, but the Mary Taylor wine project is meant to be the baseline traditional, just terroir driven, not a huge hand of the winemaker. The winemaker's job on this project is to grow super good fruit, treat it properly, don't use chemicals, bring it to the winery and make wine without any additives or any kind of really ice cold fermentation and, all these kind of techniques. We just want a very traditional terroir driven pure wine. But there's so much to discover there, for sure. If you want to be the ultimate wine geek, you should know the 10 Cru Beaujolais and get your friends together and from a distance do every cru in a dinner. So you take 10 wines out and try the different crus. It's so fun.
Yeah, we did a class on it once when we first opened, and it was eye-opening to say the least.
Yeah. I love comparing side by side.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And blind tasting is a great way to learn about wine. But I was at a job interview and they said, name 5 terroirs in Champagne and all of the Cru Beaujolais. And I was like, okay. But that's just, whatever, wine geekness. It's a problem.
Yeah. Jeff's rolling his eyes over there, but Jeff's been one of the superstars in our blind tastings when we've done them in store. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he rocks them right out. But most of them are your own wines from your portfolio, Jeff. So
this wine, by the way, you see it has a real tannic structure. Yeah. Gamay is pretty tannic. It can be. It's powerful. The alcohol is up to 14. It's powerful. It's got an edge. I think a lot of acidity. It's actually quite young in a way. I would probably age this, maybe, but I mean, it's great to drink. I like things that are a little bit crunchy. raw like that. But then it's got all the depth. So and it makes your mouth water with the acidity. So it's got all the components to make it a great wine of like gastronomy. You know, you don't want anything too primary. You want nuance and you want tertiary and elegance and then with food, that's the thing I don't love about the New World, you know. Sorry, New World, I'm gonna diss you all day long, but I don't want primary like pow in your face. Like that last wine, the Gascony, is a like pow in your face kind of wine, and that's why it's our like least expensive. And it's sort of like it's just a wine to glug. Well, this is more of a wine for like a serious, like a meal, and you know, something just that would like not overpower. I don't want like big vanilla and big fruit on my like, you know, mushroom stew. Like I want something elegant. Like this would be great with a mushroom stew or a polenta. There's so many things you can eat with this because of the acidity. Yeah. What would you have with this, Chris?
With me, think of a few different things. So I do salmon like crazy. I would just crush this with salmon, especially the way I prepare it. But somebody mentioned steak tartare. I never had steak tartare until the past year. I just started getting into it, enjoy it. I could see that going well with that as well. I don't know. How about you? Braised short ribs. Yeah, I think this is super crushable. Like by accident, I chilled a bottle down for somebody. I swapped it out after, but I could absolutely see a little chill on this. Like summertime, just stick it in your cooler and just start crushing it. Pheasant, red wine, cognac sauce. Yeah, you guys are great.
Yum. I'm starving. No, I'm not really. I had soup dumpling, but soup dumpling, the pork ones. This would be good with that for sure. I'm like obsessed with food from Asia. I like can't get enough. So all my pairings are like pho and you know, just all that. I love it. Awesome. Well, anybody not like this? I'm gonna ask people their favorite wine at the end. And I think I see people maybe eating cheese in one of the pictures. I think this would be a very good cheese wine. Oh, very good. More than one. Oh, 3, 4. Okay, there we go.
Well, what kind of cheese is your favorite to pair with this?
What would I pair cheese-wise? I think this would go really well with like a manchego type, like
oh god, yeah,
hard. Wouldn't that be good, like a hard sheep?
Yeah, absolutely. Aged manchego, like raw milk manchego, really get it in there.
Yeah, there's a cow milk from like the middle of France called Laguiole. It's the same places where they make the knives, the Laguiole knives.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
But they make this big wheel of cheese. It's like 1.5 feet tall. It's like thin and tall wheel. And the cheese, it's like cow milk. It's, you know, in a good, you know, when it's a point or whatever, it's like dark yellow, dry, but not too dry, but with dry, a more dry style. There was a little lady in the farmer's market in Beaune where I lived. Every Saturday, she would have her wheel of Laguiole, and I'd always get a big slice. There's all the, you know, the artisans, the food artisans in France are just amazing. They're really passionate. Bread bakers come. I think the farmers markets are like the most fun. You eat a plate of oysters, you know, you go shopping through. There's like this lettuce they have there called mâche. It's like this buttery, like round leaf, and the salad you can make with the little walnut oil, and oh my god, I was in food like just the tomato salads in France alone, with the shallot, and I love I love French food. Raclette, take it all day long. Anyway,
awesome. Jeff says coquille vin. You could definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, well that is the wine for coq au vin.
Doc, I mean, Jeff and Matt came in tonight, and we are talking about this Thai restaurant in New Haven. He does duck carnitas. I would crush this with that.
When are we going?
Next time you're in New Haven, go down. It's phenomenal.
That sounds great.
Yeah, no, but it's got nice acid. This wine has nice acid to it. It's not overwhelming, but I think with duck it would hold right up, especially with the way this guy prepares it.
Yeah, and like you see, you also get that that like road tar. You get that like tar.
Yeah, a little bit, not overwhelming.
Yeah, I like that though. I love like Barolo's famous for tar and roses. This is like tar and blackberries.
Yeah.
You know, I love
So
that kind of like that. I don't know, almost like medicinal flavor. That medicinal nose you get with that. Um, you know, just and it opens up and up and up. You guys, if you're gonna keep a wine around, for the next few days, like drink this one last. This will last, but always keep it in your wine fridge,
yeah.
you know, or in the actual fridge.
Yeah.
I think this is the one that unwinds the slowest. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare this to like one of the bigger companies like Louis Jadot, their Beaujolais Village, I think that last time I tried that, I mean, I definitely remember that being more grapey, more fruit forward. This has so much more structure to it. Again, with the tannins, with the acidity to it. It's just it's a beautiful example of what this region really does without tampering it for the international market.
Right. You remember well, you know LaPierre, the Morgon producer?
Yeah.
So Marcel, the father who passed away sadly in 2010, he and I once drove around. I went down there to interview him for a piece, and he said, "Get in the Jeep, let's go." So we drove around the region and we looked at vineyards, and he was like, "See that vineyard? Dead. See this vineyard? Living. See this? Dead." And like he just schooled me on viticulture in France. And like there was a lot of big name Beaujolais producers whose vineyards were like, they had no vegetation. It was like everything, obviously there was some chemical usage, there was herbicide, pesticide, you could just tell. And there was nothing. And then there was like, I mean, I love a biodiverse vineyard. I think it brings a lot of integrity to the fruit and what's grown there. And it's, you know, so, and it's harder to manage because of like, you know, things like rot, and like there's when you have the beetles, they have this thing they call sexual confusion. There's confusion sexuelle, and what it is it's a pheromone that they hang on the wire, and it has like, it attracts the something like the males so that they don't impregnate the females, because they're attracted to this smell and they buzz around the smell. It keeps them from hooking up. And it's hard, you know, it takes a lot of labor, and you have to put these things all over the place and maintain them. And so instead of going out and spraying pesticide, you know, so it's a lot more work. It's a lot more dangerous to farm. I mean, you don't get like consistent just production, but you get much better tasting stuff. And wine should be treated like I don't think it should be commoditized. I mean, you know, I like to drink, you know, like that's why I'm in the wine business. And if I treated wine like a commodity, I'm going to drink like 4 bottles of Josh and pass out? Like, no, like you want to have something that's sort of special, I think.
Oh, right, and that's in every price structure, you know, and people, I don't know, there's you know, Jeff's works for a company, you know, a bunch of us here enjoy good wine. I think everybody here enjoys good wine, but it's like, why subject yourself to something that's not really good? And it's not even about being a wine snob. It's just, you know, I just don't want to drink that has no identity. It's just not good.
You know, why damage your liver for, you know?
Why sacrifice the calories? Why sacrifice those calories just for that? It's horrible.
Cool. Well, any comments? Are most people on this like Beaujolais people? Like you drink Beaujolais frequently? Okay, there's one. Good. Has this maybe converted anybody to like checking out more Beaujolais? Because it's not like the crap that we've all grown up to think it is. You know, that's an old like 1970s trope. And it was crappy, and it still can be crappy, but there's some really good things to find here.
Yeah, even in the Beaujolais Nouveau market, there's some really good standout producers that are making Nouveau where it doesn't taste like Welch's grape juice.
Well, I love Jean-Paul Brun.
Brun makes great Nouveau.
Can you get me some of his Nouveau, possibly?
Yeah. Let's see what Slocum has to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Let's see what they say.
Are there any? Okay. All right. Cool. So should we do the last one?
Yeah, rock out the last one.
All right. Um, awesome. So this is a wine from an appellation. It's been an appellation a long time called Buzet. And Buzet, you have to use your French muscle, which it's this muscle here, Buzet. We don't have that muscle when we speak English. But this is the Sud-West again, below Bordeaux, going toward sort of the Pyrenees, but still in that area before you get way down to like the Languedoc-Roussillon. So the Southwest, again, it's just, there's so much to discover. Buzet is one of the appellations. It's sort of not that far from Gascony. The old Roman road, the Prince of Navarre horsed by here. A lot of ancient old history there. And so this was made in 1973. And there's a lot of similarities between this and Bordeaux. It's the same limestone. Limestone sort of comes in these like big crests. So the cliffs of Dover in England and Champagne share the same like band of geological limestone. So down here you have some limestone, and limestone is really important for grape production. The vines love it. It's like a porous metamorphic rock, so the vines can burrow through and get down to the water table, but it keeps it from, so it's inhospitable enough so that the vines don't grow outward like they do in high water table areas, which don't make great wine. I'm sorry, Long Island. I'm very sorry, but not the water table too high, I think. But anyway, there's some good wines out there.
I just tried a few weeks ago. I was out there. I just tried. There's a producer out there doing Bordeaux varietals. I mean, that's what they specialize in Merlot, and what people think of like California Merlot, what it's supposed to be. You try like a Long Island Merlot. It's big, it's powerful, and this vineyard. I mean, it's harkening back to like the old world, and even talking to the people there, I'm like, so you're going after Bordeaux style, and they're like, yeah, that's what we're doing out here, and and it was actually really good. Again,
more restrained.
Yeah, yep. The Merlot was powerful. I mean, big, full, tannic. Not this weak, flabby thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are some good wines out there for sure. I mean, they wouldn't be growing so much. I like the Channing daughters. I think that's
Christian's phenomenal. That guy's a maniac.
Yeah,
I walked around the vineyard with him, and he's incredible to talk to. If he has the time to really take you on the tour, he's incredible to talk to as he goes from plot to plot and explains the different areas of his vineyard. And the vineyard's just beautiful, really beautiful. He's just a true artist with everything he does.
Yeah.
That's good.
But so this is Christophe Avis. They have a domain. It's the Domaine de Bois du Simon. That's the Woods of Simon. This is, they just got on the wrong side of the border with what was Aquitaine, owned by the British. So no one's heard of Buzet. Another reason no one's heard of it is because most of the grapes go into a giant, into the co-op. And it's a co-op that's beloved through France. So if you're in Paris, like most people have a box of Buzet in their fridge. And it's one of those wines that everybody has. Everyone in Paris has a bottle of white port in the fridge. White port's like a huge production, and like just every apartment fridge has a bottle of it. So it's really like a wine that's made in France and consumed in France. It's not really an exported wine. I found it's funny how I found this. I knew this guy who had like a wine store in Banyuls and Coulior, these cool little appellations right on the Spanish border. And he said, I want to introduce you to some wines and from Spain and France. And I said, okay, send me a mixed box and I'll try some stuff. And I opened everything, and I didn't like a lot of things. I had a Valencia. It wasn't like, it was just kind of extracted, and there wasn't a lot of there, and a couple other things, and I didn't really like. And then I opened this, and I just like almost dropped my glass. I mean, the complexity, the Band-Aid, the like total limestone terroir nose, which is like that, like, leather, graphite, Band-Aid. It had all those things. So much integrity. I then brought the bottle to my blind Bordeaux group that night. And, we were drinking like old Margaux and all this great stuff. And I put this in. We do everything in a paper bag. No one can see what we're pouring. And everyone was like, ooh, what is this? Like right bank, left bank, like talking about major like Grand Cru or first growths or whatever. And it was a humble bouze down the river, and so there's, I just love it. And vintage after vintage. So we finally went there. We went to the winery. And it was like this couple, their place is on the side of the road. They have their camion in the driveway. He's got this big chai, where they make the wine. I get French and English mixed up. But so the couverie where they have the tanks, and they make the wine off the side, and then his vineyards are on either side of the road. And his growing, he is so passionate, bee friendly, biodiverse, and he's a big man of great gentleness. So, and he's so grateful to have found this working relationship, just absolutely humble and appreciative. And I just think I think he's one of the great winemakers of France. Like, I'm obsessed with this. There is no oak. This is mostly Merlot. You get a little cab. There's no oak on it. Why would you put oak on that? Look at all that terroir and flavor. It's just pure and luscious, like without needing anything. And it's not expensive, it's just like all of the things came together when I found this. And I came back with my group of women sommeliers in March this year, and they had laid out this whole spread, this whole, lunch for us, and just so kind. And you could just tell they'd spend days and days in the kitchen before we arrived. Like, these are just like humble farmers in Europe, but kind. They don't speak a word of English, not a word. So I got to practice my translation. So yeah, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, what does everybody think of this? I mean, I sent that out in an email a few weeks ago. I called it Budget Bordeaux. I think it's hard pressed to find a Bordeaux in this price range that tastes like this, especially with no oak influence at all.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, and like there's the Bouze terroir. I don't know if it really differs. I mean, I make a Bordeaux Rouge, but I kind of secretly, don't tell anyone, prefer this wine. I mean, it's harder to sell. People see Bordeaux and they're like, oh, Bordeaux. Right. I sell a zillion more cases of Bordeaux than I do of this.
And you were pushing this hard on me, and not that I was resistant at all, but it's just trying to find a home for this, and a clientele that would appreciate that. Yeah. So, on my way home one night, I stopped off at a friend's store who has this wine, so I picked it up because I needed a red for the night, and went home, and I texted you right away. I said, "Oh my God, this wine's amazing."
Yeah.
And no, we brought it in. That's how it rolls sometimes.
Right. I'm so glad. And you see, this is an expression of Merlot that's not like what we've learned. It's not like Blackstone Merlot with the like 4 square. There's a lot of nuance. Like, I don't even, I'd be curious to smell everybody's glass. Like, I'm sure each bottle has just like a touch of its own kind of nuance. I mean, this is really a living wine. And he could be like, he's a fully biodynamic. Like, I think, Mary, you go to the raw wine fair. I think he went to that, and this could be in the raw wine fair easily because it's low sulfur and no chemicals, and everything's indigenous, and the yeasts are coming off the walls. So it's all ambient yeast, and it's just exactly what wine snobs, this is like, they can't snub this one. I don't think. I think this one really nails it. And it's 2016. A lot of times the growers have like back vintages that they just couldn't sell. And, I mean, this guy's wine was labeled badly and it would never have stood up off the shelf. And, we came and kind of redressed it up and put it, all I do is design the label and send them an email with the label design in the email. And then they bring it to their French printer and have the labels printed. Slap them on the bottles, and I send the order, and and my trucker comes and hauls everything to Le Havre, and we get on a boat, and we get it to Bayonne, New Jersey, and get it off the boat and bring it to Connecticut, where I have a warehouse in New Haven, actually, and then get it all over the country. And that's kind of the supply chain. And it's a great relationship, and I love that we can. And I actually, honestly, like for sustainability, somebody said like drink local, and like drink American, and I was like, if you're talking about sustainability, like I think trucking wine overland across the country versus shipping it, I mean, there's an argument to be made that the shipping, it has less of a carbon footprint than the trucking, but so over here on the East Coast, Europe is local. Thank you. We just have a little pond between us.
Yeah.
But
so Mary's asking, how many bottles do you import to the United States?
Good question. I currently have 320 cases in New Haven. Don't tell anyone. I sell like maybe, I think I've bought like 1,200 cases of this. I'm definitely their biggest customer. And I sell it like from California to Arizona to everywhere, Florida, Georgia, we love you today.
I'll send this to Regina after.
Yeah. We love you too, Philly. I got an order from Philly today. I was like, I love you guys. So I like 1,200 cases. So it's small. I mean, he doesn't make a huge amount of wine. I work with wineries that are like really pretty big, like 200 hectare is my Anjou. But it's a great winery and it's super good fruit. I mean, I don't think size is all that important. I mean, a tiny little vineyard with 10 hectare and one farmer up the top of a mountain, like that's cool, but it's also small, hard to find. I mean, I would drink that stuff in a heartbeat, but I don't know if I could afford it. Right. So,
So what's everybody's thoughts on this right now? Type it in your thing. If you have a question, ask Mary right now. Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
And ask.
In our hour. Look at that.
Yeah. No, it goes fast. So, this wine really changed my opinion of this, especially after I let it open up. I went back to it the next day to try it again. It got even better. We call that breakfast wine. I think Jeff came up with that descriptor, breakfast wine. We'll have it tomorrow morning. Let's try it tomorrow morning.
I tend to drink like Lambrusco for breakfast if it's
God. We just got this new one in. I mean, it's earthy, it's DOC. I'm like, oh my God, this is phenomenal.
I love
just
Lambrusco.
Crushed it the other day. It was fantastic. I love Lambrusco.
Yeah.
Best Merlot in a while. Right. And that's the whole thing. People aren't drinking good Merlot. I mean, Jeff's in the room. Tom's over there. Tom and Linda are over there. We sat down. We tried the Silverado Merlot, and it's like I went to Vin Expo this year before COVID shut down everything in the city, and we sat down with the Silverado rep, and going through all their wines and their cabs or their kingpin there. But the Merlot, I kept going back to. I'm like, there's something different about this. I mean, it stands out more than the cab. But maybe a cab lover won't accept that, and you keep going back to it. It's like this is so much more powerful than that cab. And she's like, yeah, but people don't recognize that. So I had brought it over to Linda and Tom's house. And I'm like, try this, and it's just the wine's amazing. I mean, when you taste really good Merlot when it's done right, when you have a winemaker that knows the potential of that varietal, it can bury some of these cabs out there on the market right now. Blackstone should never be the catalyst of what Merlot should be, could be, anything.
Just like Naomi shouldn't be the definition of Pinot Noir,
No, not at all. It's no.
I don't understand, but I mean, I think the big, huge companies have done the smart thing. They basically corner the market and they have all the business, and every liquor store has to have their barefoot and whatever. And,
right.
And I'm kind of like hoping to build a company, like do enough of these white labels, maybe 30, 40, 100, I don't know. So that I could have a presence in like every store in the world. Take over the world. but it's, you know, I'd love for people that don't feel comfortable, like trying necessarily new things or are intimidated by wine to like feel more comfortable because they know me and the palate, and then there's just unlimited. I mean, I haven't really even dug into Spain yet, and there's so much more to do in Portugal.
Oh my God. Even
Yeah.
your Portuguese red is fantastic. It's
Yeah.
just, it's trying to get the wine drinking community to understand that, Portugal has so much to offer instead of just $10 table wines, and yours, Douro, right?
Yeah, the Douro.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Again, at that price point, it's like you have to experience that. You have to taste it. It's out of this world.
You carry the Douro, yeah?
Yeah, I got to make room for it.
Oh, yeah.
I got a small store. I got a small section there. I got to make room. I got to get rid of some stuff.
The Mary Taylor outlet store.
Come on now. But just like you said, with Spain alone, I sent you stuff from Spain, and there's so much to go after out there in the world. So how do you decide what you want to get next? So what's your?
Oh, I have it. So with Spain, I tasted with all these. I was at Vin Paris again, and they have like, the Spanish come. There isn't a thank you. There should be a Mary Taylor section in all stores. There isn't like a good Spanish wine event in Spain that I know of. There's a couple small ones. They all go to Provine in Germany, and they also go to Vin Paris in Paris. And I spent a day in the Spanish section tasting with importers, agents, negociant, growers, and I just have to have like the aha moment. And I remember this one agent was trying to like get me to. He had all these wines, and they were all like kind of cute labels, and he was really, really wanted me to be a customer, and just nothing. Everything was like, oh, it's okay, like. And somehow I like stumbled upon this guy, Carlos, as I'm like turning a corner, and I didn't like the look of his bottles or anything, but he was like, no, please just taste. And he was a Navarra farmer, and his wines are phenomenal. Like I was like, oh my God. And we like negotiated, and it took forever because it was like, I already had like a bunch of stuff from that day, and I was already in mid-production, and I had too many things, but I kept him kind of waiting. And so now he's just bottled our first 7 pallets. So they're coming in a couple of weeks.
Oh, fantastic. From Navarro?
Yeah. They're so good. It's a single vineyard. Yep. It's his sister who is the winemaker, Maria. Okay. And it's beautiful, beautiful wine. I mean, it's just like, and then I have a Cahors that's incredible. I just find these really authentic. You want to hear about the rosé? Yeah, find these really authentic growers. I mean, my rosé is sort of it's a hit. It's a 100% Gamay from Saint-Pourçon in the middle of France in the Auvergne. It's free run. It's really, really acidic. I met Mary, who's on this call. I met at a party in the Fire Island Pines for something called Open Finance, which is like finance for LGBT, but just more friendly to that community. And we ended up dancing all day. But my rosé was the what is feature wine, and it was gone very quickly. And I think y'all took like cases and cases. So yeah, it was a good day.
No, it's people, again, people recognize the label. They know what it is now. It's just a staple. Even tonight, people are just grabbing it. Here we are in November. People are grabbing, which as a retailer, you're excited. People are drinking rosé in November, like grabbing it, looking for it. If I run out of your rosé, they're like, oh, you're out of my favorite rosé. It's like, no, it's coming back. We're keeping it all year long. That's awesome to hear.
Thanks. I get some frantic emails sometimes, like, I buy your Bordeaux Blanc at like Flatiron in San Francisco, and they're out of it. Is there anything you can do to have them bring it back? And I get a few of those a week.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. It's a fun project, and I'm just gonna keep. And I have a second Spanish wine coming for the lower end, so the Gascon line. which is 100% Prieto Percudo, a grape grown in the Castilla y Leon. And I have one from an organic farmer that's unoaked and it's super fresh. Wow. And so that's coming too. I have an Iberian boat shipping in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I love Spanish wines. I'm excited for that to see what you're gonna bring in.
So in Connecticut, we started our own wholesale company. I gave some samples to like Missing Link or one of them. And they just didn't bite. So I was like, so a friend of mine, Nicole, she needed like a job and was like, all this stuff, the really like, she's so good at wine. And, she's working like weekends at a restaurant and not sure what to do with her life. And I was like, you're so talented. Why don't we just start a wholesale company in one of the markets I'm not in? So we started in Vermont. And we moved it to Connecticut, and we're trying to open Rhode Island. So we're the Housatonic Wine Company of Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Believe me, no one in Vermont's heard of the Housatonic River. But I live along the river in Connecticut. So so Lauren, who's on this call, is one of our salespeople who we met through Chris. Thanks, Chris. And it's just we're just trying to keep it real and cruise around Connecticut and sell wine to good stores. And that's what we do. So maybe
it's been doing great so far. I mean, the amount of mileage you guys cover and where these wines are. I mean, I pop into stores all over the place, not because I'm, scouting them out, but you know what? On my day off, I like to be sold to. And you see your wine on the shelf and you make conversation with the wine buyer, like, oh, wow, you have this. And, they start talking about it. It's like, it's exciting to hear that kind of passion from another wine buyer out in Connecticut. So again, it's kudos to you, your team, and getting it all out there. I mean, I haven't, again, with such a small company, there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of passion, and the portfolio continues to grow. And, I've been harping on Lauren, bring me this, and when's this coming in? We brought that Cava in, and that Rosé Cava was amazing. Amazing. I know that's not your project, that's Nicole's project, right?
No, is that we're partners.
Yeah, so right. Okay.
But I finally had a bottle of it the other night.
No, the thing's amazing. I mean, I used it for a dinner a couple of weeks ago, a private in-home dinner, and it was absolutely amazing. Even the Gamay I just featured in the newsletter this week, the 1 liter Gamay that you have. Yeah. Great wine, just great wines. And as you continue to bring more and more in, you see the diversity in this portfolio. It's just amazing. And so Tom's in here. Tom loves Truchard. You brought that Truchard back to Connecticut, and he saw, they're singing your praises. And it's you brought back this wine that, all the other distributors dismissed. They just gave up or whatever the case was. I don't know the exact case of it. I haven't seen that label in a long time, but when it popped up on your new buying sheet, I said, oh wow, I haven't seen that in a while.
Truchard, Anthony and I used to work together at Acker Merrill, which if you want a fun movie to watch, Sour Grapes on Netflix. It's all about the guy who defrauded the Koch brothers and faked all the wines. And he was somebody I knew pretty well. But anyway, me and Anthony worked at Acker Merrill and kept in touch. And I love his family, the Carneros estate. It's like old California. It's like when it was, I love old California, and really just, not expensive and not like motor oil and not like butter or Chardonnay or whatever. It's like really kind of like pure and authentic. I love their Pinot Noir. That's my favorite wine of theirs.
Even the Chard's fantastic. The Pinot was outstanding. I'm waiting to taste the Cab. I've heard great things about it, so wait to taste that. But are you going to grow more of your domestic portfolio or no?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, Ross Cobb claims he's coming. He's the winemaker for Flowers. He used to be Hirsch. And has his own wine, Cobb wines. They're pretty expensive though. They're like $75 on the shelf. But they're really good. I think they're the best of Sonoma. I mean, we have we're open to a lot of stuff. There's only 3 of us now. And we, like we don't want to make promises. We just signed an Italian portfolio called Porto Vino. And they have like, they have Scarpa, Barolo. So we just got like, 10 wines that we want to do a good job for before we grow too big, God forbid we ever have to get an investor, So trying to be organic growth and sustainable that we build. Yeah. And I'm pretty much like I loan the company wine so they can really get on their feet. So we just got our license in, what was it, June this year?
Yeah,
so
right.
And it was all in the pandemic that we had to go out and meet our first customers, and everyone saying, "Oh, I have enough distributors. I'm not tasting, and I'm not." And that, but those that can hear that and say, "Okay, no problem. I'll come back in a week," and you're feeling on Friday or whatever. That's the way of it's hard work, but we're doing it.
No, it's rewarding at the end of the day. I mean, people like yourself, like Jeff, have that same work ethic. It's just keep getting out there, keep pounding the pavement, push these wines into front of people. And eventually something's going to stick and you're going to be like, yeah, that works for me. I'm going to get it out there. My clientele will love this. It's a time and a place, something I may not have necessarily hit the mark on when I did it. So,
hard.
But it is hard. It's hard going to your side of the table from being a retailer and having such varied opinions on the whole the whole Connecticut distributor wholesaler portfolio, trying to sit there and say, no, my cab's so much better than that thing you just brought in. It's tough. It's very tough. And I give people like yourself, like Jeff and everybody else that, Lauren, that gets out there, I give you guys so much credit because, it's tough. It's tough work. So, people think getting into the wine business, I've had calls, especially with COVID, people are trying to pivot and figure out their next career move, whether they got laid off from whatever they were doing. They're looking at the wine industry and saying, oh, I want to get into that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be this. Yeah, but it is, but it's not there until you start making the sales.
Right.
It's tough. It's very tough. And anybody that's here in the industry, you can attest to that. It's very tough. It's not necessarily so fulfilling. It's very defeating every day, but you can't let it keep you back. You just got to keep getting out there and just keep doing it. And eventually something sticks and you keep rolling with it. If you believe in what you're selling, it'll speak for itself. So that's why I give people like yourself, like Jeff, I give you guys tremendous credit for getting out there, really doing it. And no matter the criticism, it just rolls off your back. You hit the next person, and, you just keep finding a home for these wines. And, it's exciting to see how far you keep going out. The spread of these wines keep going.
Thanks. Yeah, I spent 8 years as a sales rep in New York, and where there's like 100 companies. But it's kind of hard in Connecticut because it's like they're not, in New York, you can walk down a street and there's like 15 options of people to talk to and try to sell to. In Connecticut, it's more spread out. So, and you're a hot target. Everybody wants you, Chris. So, that we got in with you is just such an honor, and you've been one of our best customers. So, thank you.
No, thank you. So, I'm going to open this chat box up to everybody, so you can unmute yourselves. Ask away. You have Mary here if you want to know about the wine industry. Lauren's down here. Jeff's here if he wants to chime in. If you want to know something about the wine industry, even if you're interested in getting into it, I have I've been very open about people when they email me and say, hey, I want to get into it, and I told them, have you ever worked retail? Try doing this. Really, people see the show. There's a lot of prep. If you're on Broadway, if you do plays or anything, any kind of, anything like that, there's a lot of prep behind the scenes that you don't see that goes into all of what we do when you walk into the store. And it's very nerve-wracking. So if you were in my store this week, Carol and I were pulling our hair out because shipments were late, inventory was off from the distributor, customer needs it by Monday, but it's not going to be here till Tuesday, and they need 100 cases of this. And it's, it's very nerve-wracking. And again, you sit there and say, well, you get to drink great wine. Yes, that's at the end of the day when everything's said and done, and we can sit back and, sit down, get off our feet, and actually open something, because you know what? At the end of the day, and for all of you that are in the room, you deserve it. You know, you want to drink something good because you deserve it.
And it's Friday night, Chris, and you're working, so thank you.
I'm still working. Yeah, working never ends. So you know.
Thank you, Mary, too.
Oh, thank you all. So you're all unmuted. Please ask questions. Anything you have, anything you want to know about this industry, anything about the wines you had tonight, what you're pairing with, what you're thinking about cooking to pair with these wines. Ask away. They're here.
The Bouzette has definitely opened up. It'll be a great breakfast wine.
Good.
It's definitely changed.
Are people as excited about it as I am? I mean, I'm, it's all subjective.
Not originally. I mean, we've been trained by California Merlot, nice California Merlot, but it's a very different animal.
Yeah.
It's very dry. I'm not sure it's drier than what we normally drink in some ways.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I'm more open-minded than he is.
No, I don't want to be closed-minded.
Do you drink Bordeaux or just mostly West Coast?
We drink a lot of Spanish.
We are universal.
A lot of Spanish.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah.
New Zealand and Malvasia.
Yeah.
Croatia. I mean, pick it.
Right. Yeah, I tend to like a drier. Yeah, I go for a bit of a drier kind of red. Yeah. I like nice and plump too. It just depends. If you have my rosé, it's like
your rosé is lovely.
Yeah.
But it's
wants fruit. I want dirt. So
What's that?
She likes fruit. I like dirt. I like earth. So
right. Yeah. Some vintages of that rosé, like it's face ripping acidity, and just like gives you nothing. And I love it because I love like high acid, puckering. I like stuff that goes with food, mostly. Yeah. So.
I love the rosé. It's my favorite.
Yeah?
Yes. It's delicious.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it's kind of mine too. I mean, when I'm a little thirsty and I go into the wine fridge, I usually crack open the Bouzette.
Right.
Yeah. Any Lauren, what are you eating?
You have to unmute Lauren.
She's muted.
Hello. No, not eating much, just a couple crackers, to pace ourselves here.
Oh,
this is my mom. This is my mom, everybody.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
So we're getting her into the Mary Taylor wine.
Yeah, very exciting wines, I must say. Coming from Argentina, I know all about the Argentine Merlot, Malbec, and all that. But these grapes that you said today, they were, things that I didn't know, especially the white ones.
Yeah.
And very interesting, all your wines. Absolutely. Loved. My favorite was the Beaujolais.
Oh,
yes, that was my favorite because I'm a red wine person anyway. So
nice.
Me too.
I've been to Buenos Aires once, but never to the wine country. I love Salta though. Everything I taste from Salta.
Salta has fabulous wines. Yes, they have great wines too. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
love the wines there.
Yeah. The whole country, and now the South, Patagonia is doing wines too. And they are great. So it's fascinating. I've gone, to the wine country quite a bit, and it's just great. You should really go.
Yeah.
With us.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone else want to come with? Just jump on board.
Yeah, just get on board.
I have a question. For the Bouzette, did you actually age it in oak? There's no oak, right?
No oak. None at all. All stainless steel. In fact, he plays around with amphora. So there's like maybe 5% of the wine is actually fermented and aged in clay. But other than that, it's just stainless steel. What did you think?
I still think it's pretty young, and then you can age a little bit, maybe 2 years to go at max. And it's quite interesting. I could taste the clay, but I definitely know there's no oak inside, but I just want to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to show, so like my Douro, a wine from Portugal, that's, a place where you get really big red, you get, and it's kind of like a sweeter, perfumey grape that has tons of tannins is the Touriga Nacional. And all of the wineries are putting maximum oak on everything just to maximize impact. And I'm like, mine is unoaked.
Oh, wow.
So I sort of have,
different.
I want oak to be something that gives the wine like air. I like the, you know, the reasoning behind oak. Oh, I didn't mention that the Beaujolais is actually aged in cement. But I don't want a flavor. I don't want to impart, I don't want like the flavor of oak necessarily. Although I love like great Burgundy that's been aged in Allier barrels. But I like it when it's integrated, so it's not like hot off the press. If you're gonna drink a wine in like the first 4 or 5 years of its birth, I don't really think it needs oak if it's a really well made wine. Right. I think wines to age in the cellar, they're much better if you oak them, and 20 years later, everything is so beautifully integrated. And oak is terroir. I mean, the forests of the Allier and the Tranceau and the Vosges forests all have their own taste and their terroir, and I like that too. But this project is more about something you would drink in Paris in a bistro. That's good and it's not just crap, was selected by somebody who cares, and it's not expensive. Like when I go to a bistro and I have a glass of Chablis for €6,
right?
Why is it so expensive here? Then I go to New York and I have the same thing for $16 a glass or something. I'm like, I want to drink.
You can't compare New York to Paris or France.
Well, Spain. No, I said the same thing when I go to Spain, and I just go to like a bar, and order a glass of amazing wine that is like €4, €5, €6, and it's just like over the top.
Yeah. I love that.
You're going to the wrong places. You can get a really, really good glass for €1.
Right. Very good. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
But it's like in the airport in like Milan, they're like, do you want water or wine with the meal? Same price,
Yeah.
Same price. Right.
Sometimes like the pan of water is more expensive.
Menu del dia.
Oh, there you are.
In Italy, the wine was cheaper than the soda.
Yeah. There's so much Italian wine that I want to play with. I had a store in Lower Manhattan, and I did like 85% Italian, and I just had this Italian like decade, and I just have so much to do. What do you guys think? Should I do? I was going to do a Bardolino rosé.
Love it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
It's very good.
I wanted to go Lugana.
Yeah.
There's so much to do. So much to do.
I did a Zoom class last night for 100 people, and they want to focus on Italian wine, so I did Puglia. And again, leading off, it was, everybody tastes Chianti, Pinot Grigio, Prosecco. It's like, try something different. Really try something different. You're talking about Bardolino Rosé. It's like, right, there's so much out there. I forget the name of the Italian winemaker. It was in the movie Psalm, the first one. And, typical Italian guy, old Italian guy sitting there with the puss on his face. And he says, for anybody to want to understand and learn all the varietals of Italy, there's over 1,000 of them. You've got to be a madman. And it's true, there's so much out there. Even when you get into France, Spain, there's varietals you'll never encounter anywhere else in the world. And try to understand those, it's really incredible, But to try those wines as single varietals, if you can, it's remarkable.
Yeah, Italy for me started with Vino Italiano, that book, and it breaks down the 20 regions and it tells a story. I don't think Mario is it was only Joe Bastianich on that book, but I read that book and then I started thinking about Italy and the 20 regions, and then I started thinking about regional, and there's so much to discover, like a great Gavi. Who doesn't need a great Gavi in their life daily? There's just, so every region has kind of a breakdown in my head, and that's how I think about. And Puglia, Puglia, there's 27 DOCs in Puglia.
Yeah.
So there's so much to do.
There really is. I mean, I used to sell a brand from Lazio, Italy, and they specialized in a white varietal called Bologna. People have never heard of Bologna, but the wine was incredible. But they were experimenting with international varietals to try to create. They were all IGT, but they're trying to create something more like Bordeaux. So they were experimenting with Merlot, Petit Verdot, and they were phenomenal. Single varietal wines were phenomenal. And there's growers out there like that. I mean, and I think you're finding these people that are really experimental, but still keeping with tradition because they understand what they can grow and really pushing the envelope of what they can create with these, you know, with the terroir, with the grapes, you know, really experimenting with what they can do. And that's so exciting, you know, that you can find these people. They're out there. And they need an audience to showcase what they do.
Well, I hope you like the packaging idea. I mean, that was just an idea, but it seems to work. You know, people like the way they look and kind of the presentation. And I just wanted to do something that was, you know, it's not like, you know, most people don't think about wine 24/7 like we do.
Right.
Your packaging is similar to your wine. It's very pure and honest.
Simple.
Very well said. I agree.
Elegant.
At least for a while, you've changed my my answer to the question of what kind of wine do you like, and I'll say wine without Botox.
Oh, there you are. In French, you'd say, does anyone speak French? Because I might offend you.
Je n'ai pas compris français.
Okay, well, sorry, ladies. You would say a vin de pute, which is not very nice, or a
But very common.
like a slutty wine, like a wine that just is so big and brazen. Like everything they want in French has subtilité.
Yes.
The highest compliment you can pay is to be subtle. So.
I just have to say, when Chris put out the email about this with Mary Taylor, I expected a woman of much greater years.
Oh, thank you. Botox is working.
It's the wine, darling. It's the wine.
Oh,
good for you for doing this at your age. This is wonderful.
Well, I'm 43, and when I started my working career at 8, I was the town. I was the newspaper girl. I was a professional ironer. Right. I cleaned houses. I catered. I worked at restaurants. I did everything. And then I drove the town snowplow for 7 years in the winter. I've never stopped working. And so I just, you know, you expose yourself. And like selling wine in New York City with a roller bag up on and off a subway was hell. But it was a good hell because it got me here. I always thought about how people interpret things and, you know, my approach and how to communicate. And it was you got to go through the hard knocks to get to the insights, you know.
Well, I'm a newspaper reporter, so I'm happy that you are a paper girl.
Oh, good. We're always looking for coverage, so you know.
That might be, but that's okay.
Yeah. Any other questions before we adjourn for the night? Anything you want to ask, comment on, anything while she's here?
I have a question. So the oldest Beaujolais village you have in your hand, which vintage do you have?
What was the oldest Beaujolais vintage? I've definitely.
I mean that maybe you already sold out. Maybe you keep some bottles for yourself. I'm just curious.
Oh, 18 is our first vintage on this.
Oh.
That's it. 18. But at their winery, we've had.
Years old. I don't know.
Really? I'm looking forward to your library selection.
Oh, I know. The problem is I sell out, and I'm so like I gotta sell the rest of. You know, I'm not a good. I mean, these are wines to drink. You know, for sure.
We're looking forward to the Mary Taylor tour of wines in Europe.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'd be happy to do that. I do it all the time. It's exhausting.
Oh my God, that would be so much fun.
It sounds fun, but like you basically get up, get your croissant, and get in a van, and you drive, and you go to a winery, and then you get out of the van. You're probably kind of tired, and then you have this long tour and discussion, and then you have a wonderful lunch, and it's amazing, and you drink great wines, and then everyone piles into the van, 2-hour drive to the next place, and then you do it all over. 8 days later, you're like, give me a bowl of Captain Crunch.
Sounds terrible.
Sounds, yes, horrible.
Hard. I always put on
We
like,
just have to have a really good chateau in the middle of it all where we stay.
yeah.
Right.
Well, that's a hard thing to do. Like we did it because they've canceled the big Burgundy fair this year, but all of us had tickets. And so we just said, well, let's just go on a tour of the Southwest. And you don't want to have to go back to where you're staying. So you stay in different places. You know, it's just nobody wants to backtrack once you've driven that far, you know. So yeah. So anyway.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, it's nice to meet everybody, and
yeah, no,
in Connecticut, and you should only ever shop at Chris's store. But if you shop anywhere else,
thanks for the plug.
We agree.
We agree.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
Chris is the best.
Yeah, thank you all. I thank you all for coming tonight. So I raise a glass to you all again. Until next time we could do this in person, because I'd love to do this all in person again. Mary, thank you for taking the time out tonight on Friday night. Doing this for us. I know you had somebody in Alabama you were gonna work with tonight, but you know what? I appreciate it so much. I appreciate your time.
I like
tonight.
that I'm like, my schedule's packed. I need
Your schedule's packed. That's what it should be.
My Zoom star career.
Sounds great.
And when you get into
Thank you
Virginia,
very
let me
much.
know. I got a guy in Virginia that would take your stuff on in a heartbeat. So let me know.
Oh, send me a note about that. We're actually looking at a few companies right now.
All right, very good. So to you all tonight, to Mary, thank you again. I appreciate you all coming out. So have a great weekend again.
Thank
you,
you.
Chris.
Too.
Keep that glass filled.
Thank
Try
you.
something new every week, every day.
Thank you,
So,
Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for keeping us sane.
yeah,
Bye.
exactly.
Exactly.
drunk.
Oh my God, and drunk.
Drunk.
We're all
Good, that's what it's
drunk.
all about,
To
right?
get back to Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Don,
Have a good night, everybody.
Portugal.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for taking us away from the election for about an hour.
Oh my God, thank you.
I'm leaving
Well, I've
now.
been here.
Thank you so much.